All right, let's talk about the Third Amendment. Remember, 10 amendments all happened in the year 1791. They're called the Bill of Rights. Amendments are upgrades or add ons to the Constitution, they're updates for the Constitution. Third Amendment, what's it all about? You got to know the story. There's a specific situation. The King of England was telling the Americans in the 13 colonies, he was telling them that they had to open their houses and let British soldiers live in their houses for free. All right? So you're just living in your house with your family, and one day there's a knock at the door, and there's 3 or 4 soldiers, and they just walk in and said, "We're living here with you guys. We're not paying rent, and oh, by the way, you also have to feed us." Okay? So this was a problem. Obviously, the Americans are not happy about this. The Third Amendment was part of their solution to the problem. And the specific context is no, soldiers can't just show up at your house and demand to live there and demand that you feed them. That's the specific situation. But we also want to think about the general principle. And the general principle is it's your house, it's your property. You get to decide what happens there. So whether you have a house, an apartment, a trailer, it's your place, it's your property. Property rights means you decide who gets in and who doesn't, what goes on there, what doesn't go on there. You control it because you own it. When we look at these amendments, we have to remember it's old-fashioned language, long sentences, but if we take them apart, we can get the meaning out of them. Here's the actual Third Amendment. Okay, it's kind of scary. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. What on earth does that actually mean? Well, to get the meaning out of it, we have to look first at the historical context, what's going on in 1791 and earlier, and then we ought to figure out the modern application of it. The historical context: the British King, the British Parliament told the people in America, look, you are going to put our soldiers up in your houses. You have to give them a place to sleep. You have to feed them. No choice. So all of a sudden, people, families are forced to have a soldier or two living in their house. They're forced to feed these soldiers. They had no choice in the matter. It cost them a lot of money. These guys ate a lot of food. They took up a bedroom. To make matters worse, these soldiers were sometimes pretty rude, badly behaved, got drunk, and if you had a pretty young daughter, the soldier might be too interested in her. Lots of problems. The modern meaning, okay, the government, in that case it was the British King and the British Parliament. The government can't tell you what to do with your property. It's your house. You decide who gets to sleep in your house, who gets to eat in your house, and who does not. It's your property. You decide, right? The modern meaning, it's no longer the British King and the British Parliament, but the federal government in Washington, D.C. also shouldn't tell you what to do with your stuff. This is called property rights. You have a right to decide what you do with your property. Land is a big part of it, right? But it's also an apartment, a condominium, a house, a trailer, right? Anything that's your property, you decide what goes on there. You could one day buy a piece of land. Picture yourself in the not too distant future, a few years from now. You could save up enough money easily just to buy a square of blank land out in the countryside. All right, so back to the original thing. No soldier should be quartered in any house. To be quartered means to make that his place of living, right? Should not be housed, should not be put up or sheltered in any house without the consent of the owner. There's the big word, consent. You get to say if it's okay. Now, if you want a British soldier living in your house, go for it. But you get the consent or not. Not in time of peace, not even in time of war. Nor in time of war. So even if there's a war going on, that's no excuse for the government just to bust into your house and say, the soldier's going to live here. Even in time of war, you can't do that. But the only way in which a soldier could live in a house would be in a manner prescribed by the law. Okay, if you voted for it, if you elected some guy and you told that guy to write the law, then yeah, if you gave consent, Okay, a manner prescribed by law, meaning you gave consent because you elected the guy who wrote the law. All right, so imagine you bought a piece of land, right? You can do that. Land is actually pretty inexpensive. You go out in the countryside and you buy a square of blank land. There's nothing on it. What do you want to do? You could grow a garden. You could grow tomatoes or potatoes. Or you could rent the land to somebody else and they have to pay you $50 a month and they grow tomatoes and potatoes. Or you could build a house on it. Or you could build a gas station on it. Or you could build a restaurant on it. You get to choose. It's your choice because you own that piece of land. Now here's what we have to watch out for. The government will try to regulate you. The government's going to try to tell you what you can and cannot do with the piece of land. Don't let the government do that to you. Right? If you own it, it's yours. They can't tell you what to do with your property. And that is the meaning of the Third Amendment.